who is watching us in the recording. Hello, everybody who is watching us in the recording. I think it didn't start in time, so pardon me if it's repetitious. I'm here with Monica, Justine, and Laura. Let's recap everything we've discussed so far, and if there are any thoughts, reactions, questions you'd like to share. Anyone?
Okay, I think I can start.
Mhm. Sure. Go ahead.
Yeah. First of all, I just want to share that a lot of what we talked about was so applicable to me. I felt like you really get where I'm coming from and everything I've experienced in the past.
Really? What do you mean?
I used to be overweight and then I was struggling with weight for a very long time and nothing worked. And you're right, I've tried everything. It's like every couple of months a new diet comes out and it becomes super popular. And of course, you just have to try it. And then the next one comes along and then the next one and then it goes on forever. It's frustrating and exhausting.
Yeah, that is basically how the world of weight loss works. And everybody who ever tried going on a diet can relate to that. So this is one thing that I want to emphasize is that Einstein's definition of insanity is keep trying to do the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. So the main thing about all diets that they have in common is that they're based on calorie counting. And that's all they do. They're trying to reduce your food intake and, possibly increase exercise, which, is something, more of elaborate program. So either just calorie counting or calorie counting and exercise based on the premise that, what you eat, calories, how much you burn, calories, and what is left. But this only works sometimes because our bodies are very complex systems. If you think about the world of medicine, every time we as much as get a stomach ache or a headache, there are usually different causes and reasons, different ways to treat it. So any common symptom usually has multiple treatments, multiple explanations, and multiple ways to fix it. But when it comes to the symptom of overweight, of having excess weight, somehow it's all on us. We're not living right. And none of the reasons that would be considered for a headache or for a stomach ache come into the picture, which to me is, once you think about it, makes absolutely no sense. But the weight approaches there, since this is all that's out there and it's kind of established in the mainstream, this is what they adapt and this is what they pursue. So basically, any diet, with few exceptions that are starting to come out now, like keto, for instance, is the first diet that actually looks beyond the surface. But anything that we have seen, like in the last 50 years, is based on calorie counting, intake versus output. And they're just very cleverly masked, same approach cleverly masked into a different quote unquote diet. For instance, Weight Watchers, you're not counting calories, you're counting points, but it's still the same basic foundation. And when you don't take other reasons, other processes that happen in your body, then you basically end up blaming the victim. Nobody would blame you for having a headache and tell you you're doing something wrong, even though maybe you stayed up too late and read too much. But this is really not the reason why you have a headache. And same thing with weight gain. Yes, there are things that we do that contribute to our weight gain, but you absolutely can't ignore the things that are going on in our body. Don't, because any metabolic process, anything that happens with us, obviously is more complex than something that what we're doing. But Laura, what about you?
Well, I'm definitely in the same boat of, having struggled with weight loss for a long time. And I guess what struck me the most from what we've discussed was, um, one is the information overload. It's definitely real.
Mm-hmm.
Two, not only is there too much information available, but I'm slowly realizing that a lot of it may be wrong. Like, for example, when you talked about how the food pyramid was basically a product of business interests, that really hit hard.
Oh, and why is that?
Well, because that's basically the foundation, I guess, of everything I know about proper nutrition. So if that isn't true, I'm pretty sure a lot of what we've read or heard about it when it comes to weight loss isn't true either.
Exactly. So food pyramid, for you people in the group, you know what we're talking about. But if you happen to watch this recording elsewhere, I'm going to recap very briefly. And if you go to a doctor, even to a nutritionist, they show us this food pyramid, and they say at the foundation is grains, I do believe, and then fruit and vegetables, and then it all ends up with proteins. Just even at a casual look at that, I cannot think of anybody who would accomplish much in weight loss if they ate mostly grains, which would mean mostly bread, bakery, cereals. So those are your grains, basically: cereals, bread, and bakery. Can you lose weight by kind of leaning hard on those things? No. There is a whole story about food pyramid and how it came around, which if you have follow-up questions on that, you're welcome to discuss that in the group in the comments. Basically, when it came out, it was put not by the doctors, but by the government. And the reason for publishing the food pyramid idea was to help farmers who were producing the grains, because at that point, that's where they were trying to shift the economy and how. So it's another example of one of those supposedly medical things that comes from top down and only partially works, because I'm sure there are doctors involved, with any of that, but it's definitely not something peer reviewed and not something with the purpose of solving a health problem, but rather than solving an economic problem. And so food pyramid is the foundation, as Laura mentioned, of the mainstream approach to weight loss. And if you think, any foundation, like if you're building a house, any angle, if you start, deviating just a little bit in the beginning, once you keep going, your angle keeps growing, and the further you go, the further the bigger that deviation is going to be. And this is basically what's happening with weight loss industry. Is every weight loss program that gets produced is based on calorie counting, and calorie counting doesn't work. So everything else they put around you kind of gives you that deviation angle that takes you even further. Because let's face it, the purpose of any weight loss program is to sell it to you so that you pay money to lose weight. Obviously, if the participants have results, that helps. But if you don't have the right foundation to produce those results, if the knowledge not there, and you have to work with something that only partially works, you have to create those other additional things so that you could say something besides count your calories, eat less, and exercise more. And we know what happens when we are told to eat less and exercise more. We get very hungry, we get tired, we get frustrated, and our efforts usually don't go anywhere. And then it's our fault because we don't have enough willpower. Um, so that is one of the main definitions of a weight loss program that has become associated with weight loss efforts is laziness and willpower.
Yeah, that's another thing that really resonated with me. That failure to lose weight isn't necessarily the person's fault. It's just that it hasn't ever been dealt with properly. Like, it certainly was my fault, or for the lack of trying back when I first started.
Yeah, I actually agree on that. I mean, I'm beginning to realize that although I've tried so many different things in the past, none of these has actually targeted the root cause of it all, or actually even bothered to find out what that is in the first place.
Exactly. So we kind of come back to the same concept that it's not just the calories. There is a lot of things that go into that. I watched one of those TV shows where the host happened to be talking about weight loss, and the idea of calorie counting is very deeply rooted in our perception. So, as they're talking about people trying and not getting anywhere, and most people who, attempt it usually, get so far and then it quits working, it's very much everybody's experience. So, something that happens to everybody, or 99% of people, obviously doesn't work. But the idea of calorie counting is so strong that in that particular TV show they could not step away from it. So an interesting point that I thought one of the hosts brought up, he says, well, how are you guys saying that calorie counting doesn't work? Because it says, I hate to bring up such a gruesome example, but people in the concentration camps, when they didn't have food, when they were basically being starved, they did lose weight. So, that obviously there is a connection between how much you eat and your weight loss. So, isn't that logical that if you eat less, you're going to lose weight? Well, that is true. That is absolutely true. But people in concentration camps didn't have to be nice to their clients like most of us. When we go to work, we really can be in that, totally, angry, pissed off mood that, hey, don't even talk to me because I am what the term is hangry, hungry and angry. I'm so hungry, I'm angry, and everything irritates me. My husband, my kids, you know, they also didn't need to think, if, our job or even taking care of the house involves some kind of decision making, and you are in such a horrible brain fog because your body's being starved and you can't think, and all you can think of is that, how am I not going to eat this dinner today? What am I going to do? Then you really can't concentrate on anything else, and you're tired, you really can't do anything, your social life suffers. And can you look at that and says, well, why did you quit your diet? You must not have enough willpower. Well, hello, because once, you can only continue so long. And eventually, everybody is going what the term is cheat on their diet. Now they're going to feel guilty. And for most people, if you cheat this morning and you ate something, then okay, today's shot, so I may as well, go out to eat and have two pieces of pie and a milkshake because I already screwed it up in the morning. So and then they start all over and they're again frustrated, tired, and so forth. because the whole reason for that is that there are metabolic processes in our bodies that are telling us, I can't function. I need more nutrients. I need more energy. I can't live like that. And trying to stop that eventually proves impossible. Like, if pardon the parallel, if you have to go to the bathroom, you can only hold it so long before the metabolic process overpowers your conscious mind that says, sorry, that's what needs to happen in your body. And this is how much how strong we're programmed when it comes to weight loss as well. We really cannot override nature very long. Finally, we're going to give in. We're going to start all over. Another example that I want to give you is look at the wildlife. You really don't see overweight lions, tigers, zebras, deer. If you look at the wildlife, the problem does not exist there because they're in their natural environment. They're using their bodies the way nature programmed them, and the issue of weight loss isn't there. Once you take that same zebra and you put her in the zoo and you start feeding that zebra zoo food that is commercial, zebra starts gaining a lot of weight because now she's out of her natural environment. She's not eating her regular diet. Her body goes out of balance. She gains weight. So same thing happens to us is that when we're not in tune with our natural processes, that's what happens. We go out of balance. We're not having the right fuel. We're not distributing our energy correctly, and we start gaining weight. But Justine, so what do you think the participants who are just starting out in our program should be looking forward to most to be optimistic about this program? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, as I mentioned, I've done it all before. Diet relay, as you called it. I'm hoping that getting to the real issues at play will finally put an end to the guessing game. And I'm optimistic because it really makes sense. I mean, how can you solve a problem without knowing what it is?
Right. And you, Laura?
For me, I'm curious to see how the system will veer away from a one size fits all approach. To be honest, I'm not the type who will be able to follow strict rules like, oh, just go do these exercises 3 times a day and cut out rice from your diet because no, my schedule and home life just don't allow that. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how the program will work for me.
Exactly. And so you're not going to have to deal with those issues. I can tell you right away because as we've discussed today, we are not going to be talking about willpower and forcing yourself into something. We're going to be talking about the root causes of what makes you gain weight. And what are those root causes? Number one, a lot of people, before we get to the root causes, I just want to mention something that you are definitely not alone. That most people, when they start a diet, that's a very common fear, is just don't ask me to do something that I know I cannot handle. Whatever you're going to ask me, it better, be something that I can do. Because let's face it, a lot of programs, like you said, just tell you, hey, just do this. And if you do this, you're going to be okay. Once you think about it at the logical level again, if tomorrow you get up and you run a marathon of 30 miles, you're probably going to lose some weight doing that. That's a lot of energy. But can you? Very few people are in a position to say, hey, I'm going to get up and run a marathon tomorrow because I know it will work for my weight loss. to be realistic, a lot of people can't walk 2 flights of stairs without being out of breath. So what are they going to do? Even if we're not talking marathon, if you're just talking, maybe 2 push-ups, they can't do it. And so when you ask somebody to do something that they're not able to, pretty much the whole program goes out of the window, because it's like eating that donut in the morning and then feeling like, okay, there I go. I'm a loser today. So if something doesn't fit into your lifestyle, and that's my main point here, it is another way of putting you out of balance and out of your natural environment. And that will never work. You need to be in tune with your body. And being in tune with your body involves your lifestyle. And yes, maybe there's some things in your lifestyle that will need to change down the road in order for you to stay healthy. For instance, if somebody has a habit of staying up past 11 o'clock at night or past midnight in front of the TV, and then they feel hungry, and then they feel like, well, they got to have their midnight snack, they probably not going to be successful in their weight loss efforts. But there's steps that you need to take to eliminate that, and figure out why you're doing it. Maybe there's some underlying boredom or emotional issue that you're trying to drown by doing that. Maybe it's just a matter of scheduling, and you need to get up early, and then you'll feel tired a lot sooner than you normally do. Everybody is going to have a different reason for doing that. And so by working back from those issues and starting at the level, at the stage where you actually can and want to deal with those, like for instance, if you just don't feel tired, and this is why you end up staying up at night, getting up in the morning is going to take care of it. Trying to go to bed earlier and lay there and toss and turn probably won't. So making the right steps counts. Another thing that I want to mention is that, again, we're not counting calories, because there's a lot that goes into weight loss that is, that's beyond calorie counting. There is a popular program out there. It's called Noom, I think. And I saw people's testimonies, reports. They're saying, hey, I really like it because it talks about my hormones. So it's another thing that goes into weight loss. We all know that our hormones affect greatly our weight loss or our weight gain. Another thing that goes into that is medications. Again, if you're on a certain medication, oftentimes it will tell you right on the package it causes weight gain as one of the side effects. But why are you on that medication? Is because you may have an underlying health issue. And is there any ways that can be fixed naturally by making some changes? And my answer is oftentimes yes. Once you start doing this program and you start getting in tune with your body, in tune with what the nature intended for you, those problems get resolved, and a lot of times the need for medication goes away. Well, obviously not always. You can't fix everything, but for even those instances when it does, it's a huge progress. Another thing that goes into weight loss, kind of talking at the very surface level right now, obviously we're going to break it down in more detail as we go along, like calorie counting. Well, okay, you eat so much, you exercise in the gym, and you burn so much. Intake and output makes sense to absolutely everybody. Exercising, though, is not the only output, because what you eat, where does it go? Down to your stomach. Does it stay there and only goes into fat, or does some of it come out eventually into the toilet? So the process of what stays and what comes out is also part of the intake and output. We don't only sweat things out, we also poop them out and we pee them out. And this is an important part to take into consideration. And this where I feel calorie counting is flawed, because they totally do not count that process. That if I eat this apple, and it's my imaginary apple, right? If I eat this apple and it's got 200 calories, then I just ate 200 calories, and then I need to do this particular exercise, let's say 20 minutes on the treadmill, and it's going to tell me that's what you need to do to burn 200 calories. Okay, so if I ate 200 and I burned 200, then, I'm going to be okay. But do I really need to burn 200? Because out of that apple, some of it is going to come out. Not the whole apple, obviously. Some is going to get absorbed into my body, but some of it is dropping in the toilet. Some of it is going to be used for other processes in my body, for digestion, my heart's beating. If you've got hormones and hot flashes, it takes a lot of fuel to produce that much energy, for those people to whom it's a struggle. So all that has just gone out. So the idea is that determines how much you need to exercise, is leaving a lot out. And once you put it back in the ratio, you get a whole lot better picture of what you need to do in terms of exercise. And it usually is a lot less than you think. So that takes care of strenuous exercise. And of course, the last thing is the right food. Kind of like in your car. If you put the wrong kind of gas in there, it's going to sputter, it's going to stall. So same thing with your metabolism. You don't put in the right fuel, you're going to have issues, you're going to have clogs, blockages, the energy is not going to exchange itself right between the right parts, and so forth. So that is another part of what I'd say metabolism that is totally left out of the picture when we talk about diet. How much of your food goes to your daily energy expenditure, as far as thinking, talking, making decisions, your physiological processes of your digestion, your heart beating, your breathing, and how much of it actually goes into extra. And you'll be surprised to find out that usually it's a deficit. And the weight gain is not a way of your body storing extra energy. It's a way of preventing itself from losing too much. But that's a subject for forthcoming weeks that we're not going to get into. So do you guys have any questions, final words that we need to talk about?
Yes, none
Okay,
for
then.
me.
Well, let me. Was there?
Oh
No.
no, I was just saying none for me.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to the next few topics we're about to cover.
Yeah. Yeah. Great. Okay. Well, thank you so much for today. I'm going to stop the recording at this. All right. Well, thank you, ladies, very much. I think it went very well. I think we did great.
Yeah.
I sure appreciate your participation. I like the idea, so I think that's how we're going to be doing this, is reviewing the script. Thank you. You did wonderful. I'm really happy with how this went today.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, we'll see you
Thanks.
next time.
Thanks, Helena. Have a great
hmm
week and
Thank you. You
Thank
too.
you.
hmm